وقفت حروفي في ربوع بياني.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We have Shaykh Abdul Nasir Jangda who's coming up in any minute. His flight was a little delayed, so inshallah he will be here any minute. But we're going to start the panel without him, inshallah. One of the objectives of this panel is to just discuss and talk about a few things that are on the minds of many Muslim brothers and sisters in the community at the moment. One of the things that I want all of you, brothers and sisters, to understand is the scholars that are sitting in front of you also live in the same society and community as you. So we also face the same problems. We also have the same situations. We also have the similar questions. It's not like our problem is, I'm only praying 6 rakat tahajjud, I'm trying to pray 8. Right? We have to humanize the scholars who are sitting here and remember that we also face some similar circumstances as you do, and sometimes speeches can get overwhelming. So I'm going to be asking some questions, and I'll have Imam Zaid Shakir and Shaykh Abdul Nasir Jangda come. I want to hear their response to a few things. So without further ado, a few weeks ago we heard about the massacre, a month ago almost, the massacre that took place in New Zealand, in Masjid Noor and Linwood Masjid. Round of applause for Shaykh Abdul Nasir. So when that happened, I actually traveled to New Zealand. Many of the Miftah students know that I went there. I was there for the first Jum'ah. We buried more than 35 shuhada. We were there for the janazas. You know, when we talk about the fragrance of a shaheed in a book, we don't know what it smells like till you're there. The first time you smell the fragrance of a shaheed, you realize how beautiful the smell is. The first time they opened up the face of a 14-year-old shaheed, and you see that his lips were still red and his face was still blossomy, you realize they're ahya, they haven't died. And when you look at them, it looks like they're sleeping. They're not really dead. And when we were there, we went through a lot of emotions. We saw a Syrian refugee kid by the name of Zaid who escaped the tyranny and oppression of Syria with his family and moved to New Zealand, and his brother Hamza and his father, they were both shaheed alongside, next to him in the masjid. And the picture that stays in my mind for the rest of my life is this youngster, a 14-year-old kid who was shot up on his legs, and maybe he can never walk again. He was in a wheelchair sitting in between two graves. One was his father, one was his son, his brother. And it was very hard, and it was like he was just sitting there with his head down like this. So, and I don't want to talk about that in detail. I want to ask questions to these ulama who are sitting here. I want to first talk about, Imam Zaid, what should be the Muslim community's reaction to such tragedies and situations that take place in the world? What do you think, how Muslims, youngsters, sisters, brothers in our community and colleges, how should they react? Should they feel victimized? Should they feel mad? Should they feel like how should they feel? What should be the emotions of these people?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think this particular issue can consume this entire conference because there's so many things. I would say, number one, everyone should be vigilant and understand there are evil people in the world. And one of the greatest groups of evil, not the largest, not the dominant, but one of the most diabolical is people that hate Muslims. And so Allah reminds us in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ الطَّاغُوتِ فَقَاتِلُوا أَوْلِيَاءَ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّ كَيْدَ الشَّيْطَانِ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا. That those who believe, they fight in the way of Allah. Those who disbelieve, they fight in the way of the false gods. So fight all of you together, the awliya, the dupes of Satan. Verily, the scheme of Satan is weak. So this fight isn't a physical fight. It's a fight of ideas. Iman versus kufr. It's the brotherhood, the unity of humanity versus poisonous, nationalistic or fascistic movements. So it's a battle of ideas. So if you're working for the CIA because they wouldn't have you in the mafia and you're taking notes, I'm not talking about a physical fight. It's a fight of ideas, and that we are supposed to be the awliya of Allah, those who are protecting, those who are the friends of Allah, and Allah, not protecting Allah, but working to protect Allah's religion. Allah needs no protection, of course. And that's who we should, these tragedies should remind us that this struggle is going on and it's real. Now, as the reaction shows, most people are not down with that program. Most people are ignorant concerning Muslims. And this incident probably did more than anything in recent history to humanize the Muslim. Because you've heard the slogan, right? Where one of these racist, anti-Muslim bigots will go on television or address an audience and say, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. And people buy into that, not anyone here, but people out there. And so now they see the terrorist is not a Muslim, and the people who are terrorized and trying to avoid that term, and martyred are Muslims. It smashed the whole propagandistic paradigm that's being set up. And so as a result, you see good people coming forth. So we should be vigilant, and we should understand there's a struggle between truth and falsehood. And that the ideas motivating that killer are from the falsehoods, the batil. يعني جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. Truth comes, falsehood perishes. Verily, falsehood by its nature will perish. And so, let me hurry up, because there's supposed to be a lot of questions. So I'll try to end on this point. So we have to bring the truth to people. Even that guy that did all this murdering, that guy his mind was shaped by satanic ideas. And the reason those satanic ideas are circulating to the extent they are is because we're not introducing the godly ideas, which is our responsibility as the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so this tragedy should just remind us to return to our responsibility. We get bogged down in these petty squabbles and insignificant discussions about this and that and slandering each other. You know, let's slander so-and-so. There's a website, slandertheshaykh.com. And everyone can't wait to rush on and give their 2 dirhams in the whole campaign. No, we have bigger things to do, brothers and sisters. Amongst that big work that this tragedy reminds us of is the need for us to get out there and introduce the ideas contrary to the satanic ideas. Unity of humanity. We're all brothers and sisters at the end of the day. Ya ayyuhan nas, humanity, not ayyuhal muslimun, Muslims. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. We've created you from a single pair of male and female. And that's been genetically proven. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And we've made you into nations and tribes. Not some of you can say you're superior to others. Some of you can claim that you have a right to dominate the world. No. Some of you can say that you are the supreme human beings. No. لِتَعَارَفُوا. So that you can recognize in each other the creative power of Allah Ta'ala to create all of this diversity that's displayed even in this room from that single pair. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. And the only distinction between you is who has more consciousness of Allah Ta'ala, who's more willing to implement His orders and to avoid His prohibitions. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ خَبِيرٌ. So there's hundreds of things we could say, but I'll just start with that and pass the mic to Shaykh Abdul Nasir, probably maybe for another question.
If you want to shed some light on that, or if you feel like that's satisfactory.
No, of course. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everybody. So, of course, what Imam Zaid said is absolutely the advice we need to hear. The thing that I kind of thought a lot about in the aftermath of this event, and I want everyone to understand this very carefully, just so that there's no misconstruing of my words. This was a profound tragedy. And I don't think anybody could look at the stories and see the accounts and the interviews with family members and not be completely shaken up to their core. But that being said, when we kind of think about it afterwards, a month later when we're sitting here having a conversation about it, one of the things that occurred to me was, and I know that's the theme of this conference in its entirety, and that is a lot of times there's this kind of sense that develops that things are really bad right now. Like things are worse than they've ever been. Nothing like this has ever happened. And I needed to remind myself, remind my family, remind my own community that that's just simply not true. And I'll tell you why. I don't say that things have been this bad and even worse before, so that somehow makes this any less of a tragedy. No. That's not my point. My point is things have been this bad and even worse previously, but the Ummah survived. Islam is still here. Muslims persisted. The word of God remained. And as long as we keep doing what we're supposed to do, like we never need to feel threatened to the point where we're like doubtful of whether Islam is even going to make it to the next generation or not. By these outside forces. The only force that actually jeopardizes Islam passing on are the problems that exist internally within. But the external problems, the external pushes that people make, this ummah has withstood amazing things. Really powerful onslaughts have been made against this ummah, and we're still sitting here today. So we have to feel empowered by that. That's why we have to read our history. That's why we have to read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Battle of the Trench, allied enemies surrounding the city. It seemed like it was impending doom. And the ummah continued. And the ummah actually flourished even more after that. So we can find solace and comfort and consolation and empowerment within our history, within the life of the Prophet ﷺ. That's just something that I had kind of reflected on for myself.
That's it, one small thing. That's what Shaykh Abdul Nasir mentions, very, very important, that we have to forge on. And as you saw, if everyone hates Muslims and it's so bad, how come there's this outpouring globally of support and solidarity with the Muslims? In New Zealand, from the Prime Minister to the motorcycle gangs in the street. Here in this country, people bringing wreaths to the masjid and churches and synagogues. I was in Chicago the very next morning. The store woke up at Fajr and heard this news, and they said, well, we want you to give I ended up giving 2 khutbahs. Like, you're here to talk about it. The masjid, there was all the Jewish rabbis came to Jummah in Chicago. So Skokie and those areas, a lot of Jewish rabbis. They were all there with signs expressing their solidarity with the Muslims. And so if it's that terrible, where is this coming from? But the point I want to make, Allah says, لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ. You're going to be tested in your wealth and your lives. وَلَتَسْمَعُنَّ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا أَذًى كَثِيرًا. And so this so-called Islamophobia, this was back in the Prophet's time. And you're going to hear from some of those, given the scripture before you, from some of the Jews and some of the Christians and some of the idolaters, like the RSS and the BJP in India. Adhan kathira, much abuse, not a little bit. So what do? وَأَن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. If you patiently persevere in doing the good things that you do, and if you remain mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then verily this is from prophetic resolve. There's ulul azm, the great messengers, Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they call ulul azm. فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. So brothers and sisters, have prophetic resolve, forge on, keep doing the good things that you do. Keep representing the good things that you represent, and Allah is with us, and inshallah, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And the end will be for the righteous, inshallah.
Round of applause for the answer, guys. Jazakallah khair. This leads to my next question, which the question that I'm about to pose to both of you scholars. I just don't want to get any backlash from any of the audience over here. We have an anonymous email joke that we've been going on with Miftah students. But it's two events that happen in the same week, so that's why I'm going to ask this question. The Sunday after the Christchurch attack, I was flying to Chicago, and I was United Airlines. The pilot came out of the cockpit, ushered me to the front, and said that there are passengers on the flight that don't feel comfortable traveling with you on the flight. And I was wearing this imama. I usually don't wear imama when I travel, but that day I was. So it kind of hit me, and I don't want to say the word victim again. You know, I don't want to say that because I just, whatever, it happened. I said, the worst part was I left my charger in my seat. I had to walk all the way back. It was a little catwalk. Then I went and got my charger, left. So when that happened, I sort of started thinking that, is this what our sisters that wear hijab all the time have to go through? Like, is this what they go through when they talk about people are looking at us negatively, and brothers cannot understand their pain sometimes because they never have to go through that. But since that day I was there and I went through it, and it felt horrifying. It felt deflating that it happened to me, but still we have iman, taqwa, this stuff happens, you move on. The second thing that happened when I was in New Zealand, I had about 12 to 13 New Zealanders asked this question. These are all males. Because remember in the Jum'ah, that Jum'ah that happened in the park, Hagley Park, where Bangladesh and New Zealand were going to have their test match in that Hagley Park. They had Jum'ah in the Hagley Park. So all the women of New Zealand, to show solidarity with the Muslim sisters in Islam, they wore a headscarf. Even their prime minister wore a headscarf. Do you want to know what the question the men were asking? How do we show solidarity with Muslims? What should we do? You know, should we grow fake beards? Where do we buy thobes? They were asking this question. So then when I was flying back, I was thinking that, would it be a good idea to take the attention that is fully geared towards our sisters who are wearing hijab, to take some of that attention off of them and move it towards men who can be masculine with their attack on them? Like, you know, when you want, look at me, right? What do you think, guys? Right? Like, you know what? It's about time that we own up to that and help our sisters and take the attention, because we have folks in university colleges, youngsters who are going up to a sister, a guy who's wearing tight jeans and a shirt, going up to a sister and saying, your hair is showing. Muslim guys, your hair is showing, and they're telling a Muslim sister, your hair is showing, and he's Muslim wearing skinny jeans and a shirt. How do you have the audacity to say that? And sorry if I sound rude to you, but I'm thinking, is this a good idea, Imam Zaid or Imam Shaykh Abdul Nasir Jangda? What are your thoughts that the Muslim brothers who are sitting here, forget theological, halal, haram, wajib, mustahab, fard, Hanafi, Shafi'i, no, forget theological discussions. What do we think about brothers showing some sort of solidarity with Muslims, sisters, so there's some sort of identity that Muslim men can show for Islam? If the sisters think it is a good idea, give me a round of applause.
Start off. So I was basically deferring to Imam Zaid because I mentioned it to him earlier even today that I remember seeing a video of Imam Zaid many years ago. He said it was about 7 or some odd years ago. It was quite some time ago. where Imam Zaid had actually recorded a video, and he had put it out, and I remember it had circulated quite a bit at that time, where he was basically challenging and demanding that, it was after, one of these kinds of horrific incidents where unfortunately somebody saying that they were Muslim had committed one of these kinds of atrocities. And in the aftermath of that, I believe there were quite a number of assaults and attacks against Muslim sisters wearing hijab and things like that. And I remember Imam Zaid had actually put this demand out there that Muslim brothers needed to, put on a kufi or put on a topi, a turban, an amama, wear something, so that you're identifying yourself publicly as a Muslim as well. And so that you're not kind of just leaving our women folk out there completely, just in that compromised position with all the negativity and all the negative attention targeted towards them. Ideally, there would be no negativity, but we live in a complicated world. And so there is negativity. And so I think that definitely makes a whole lot of sense. And before I give it to Imam Zaid, because like I said, I found his comments back then to be very, very insightful and very inspiring. I wanted to also talk about this idea that when we're dealing with a lack of compassion, when we're dealing with anger and hatred, the only thing that makes that is even more difficult than dealing with hatred outside is dealing with anger and aggression inside. If somebody's mean to me at work, that really sucks. That's not fun. When somebody is mean to me at work, I have a supervisor picking on me, breathing down my neck, that's not a lot of fun. Anyway, some way, somehow, I push through, I get through, 5 o'clock, I finally clock out, I go home, and that's where I'm going to find some comfort. Now imagine if I get home and there's someone fighting with me at home. That's very demoralizing. And that's what Mufti Abdul Rahman, Shaykh Abdul Rahman was commenting on, that when you have this charged kind of environment, Muslims are being hated on, and sisters, because they're so visible, are being targeted. And then those sisters come in the community. They come to the masjid, they come to the MSA, they come to the conferences, they come to the classes, they come to the Muslim, the ummah, the Muslim community. And then when they get picked on over there, think about it. Put yourself in that position. No, there's no release for me anywhere. There's nowhere where I can just belong, I can be comforted and consoled. So it's very, very sad. So just a little note about compassion, about mercy. Be merciful to others, and Allah will have mercy upon you.
Before Imam Zaid takes a mic, this comment, this is also this like feeling homey feeling is not just for the sister who's wearing a hijab. We don't look at people by the cover and just judge them. Who are we to do that? Sisters who don't wear hijab, sisters who look, we're talking about everybody here. We're including all the Muslims that say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We want them to feel comfortable when they're in our environments, in our masjids. They don't have to change who they are. If someone wants to chooses to wear something the way they want to or not wear something, it's all good. But they shouldn't come to a space like a masjid or an MSA event or a conference and have to face the same thing they're facing outside those environments. And that's not only for the sisters who wear hijab, it's for people that don't wear hijab as well. So before Imam, now can you please shine some light on that and make some demands for the brothers?
Alhamdulillah, Bismillah ar-Rahim. I think Shaykh Abdul Nasir summarized it. But I've been, even before I made that film, which was at the request of a sister who at the time was at the University of California, Berkeley Journalism School. That was part of her master's degree project. But decades before that, I've always advocated that, because if not for theological reasons, first of all, modest dress is for men and women. It's not just for women. Secondly, it's always been, for most of the Muslim people, a tradition for men to have their heads covered, because that was the dominant state of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even I have a challenge, and it's still open. Maybe someone here can meet it, to show me a picture of a Muslim man in the 19th century, so the 1800s, because the cameras started around 1855, 1860, and without his head covered by something, by turban, tarbush, topi, kufi, taqiyya, yani, gutta, whatever. And no one's shown me yet. So I think it's very important for brothers, if for no other reason, just to be in solidarity, support, and defense of our sisters. Now, you feel really terrible if you're walking with a Muslim sister with your blue jeans on and your no fear t-shirt and nothing on your head, and somebody goes and does something unbecoming to that sister. You feel like dirt. So I think we shouldn't leave sisters caught out, period, by themselves, as you put it, and show some solidarity. Like, if you want to hate someone, hate me. You know, you want to pick on someone, come snatch my headpiece off. Ahlan wa sahlan, wa marhaban. But why are you going to pick on my sister?
Jazakallah khair. Round of applause for Shaykh Abdul Nasir and Imam Zaid Shakir. Wallahi, we wish this conversation could continue, but we have to get to the next program, and Shaykh Abdul Nasir will be speaking here, and Imam Zaid will also be speaking here. Unfortunately, I'll also be speaking later on as well. So, inshallah, you brothers and sisters, may Allah reward you for your attention. Again, these thoughts are just something that we're thinking about on a lunch table. So we said we'll bring it over here. It's not something that we were planning, reading books for. You want to say something, Shaykh?
You still have 5 minutes.
Yes, we still have, we have to. So no,
We'll take 3.
I think it means we're past 5 minutes. We're trying to be on schedule over here. But Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward you, brothers, Imam Zaid and Shaykh Abdul Nasir. If you want to say anything else, last few comments, Shaykh Imam. I want to say one thing, that Imam Zaid is, I asked him this question. This is for all the young Miftah students who are sitting here and all the students of knowledge. Like, we have to have, I feel like Muslims have to have a level of, a seniority with scholars when it's concerning scholars. I graduated probably 10, 12 years ago, but Imam Zaid is senior to me. And senior to Imam Zaid is senior to Shaykh Abdul Nasir. Shaykh Abdul Nasir is senior to he's senior to me. So we have to have a level of respect and honor youngsters who are sitting here. Just because this is social media era, we can't, just because a scholar says something, may say something in a manner you don't like, we shouldn't be like all others and just bash them on social media. I don't agree with this, Shaykh, because of this. Rather, we should have a level of respect for one another. Like how we would demand respect from others, we should also respect others in the same manner. Imam Zaid, it's an honor sitting with you, asking you questions. As a child growing up, I used to always look up to you. And Shaykh Abdul Nasir, you're a mentor to us. Thank you for sitting here with so much respect and answering this question. Jazakallahu khairah.